Yes, Shaq lived in my house in 2009. No, we were not roommates, but I was his landlord back then when he was traded from the Phoenix Suns to come try to bring a title for LeBron and the Cavs here in Cleveland. Now, here's how it happened. Back in, I think, around June, he was traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Cleveland Cavaliers in order to come bring a title for LeBron. He called it witness protection. I remember the morning it happened. I had just been living in my brand new house for 3 months. I had an indoor basketball court in that house because I loved playing basketball. It was phenomenal. That morning, I got a phone call from a realtor that I knew who said, would you be interested in selling your house to Shaq? Now, obviously, I thought to myself, how does this realtor already have information? She informed me that she didn't, but she knew a contact of Shaq's in Cleveland. So I said to her, listen, I knew about the NBA contracts. I knew about Shaq's contract. He was in the last year of a $100 million deal that paid him $20 million that season. So I said to her, I said, listen, I don't think he's going to buy a house in Cleveland because this is not where he wants to spend the rest of his days. But I would entertain renting the house to him for the right price. I was only 27 years old. I could have gone anywhere and been fine. I had no wife. I had no kids. This was all a slight inconvenience for me. So she said to me, I'll be back in touch. Fast forward a few weeks, and all of a sudden I get a phone call from her. Hey, you need to send me pictures of your house. You need to send me whatever videos you have of your house. I'd had some professional pictures taken because I loved my house, and I wanted it for the first pictures ever done to be shown there. So we sent him the pictures, and we received word that Shaq and his wife loved the house. But there were other houses they were looking at. I said, fine by me. So a few weeks into July, I get a phone call. Paul, Shaq's going to live somewhere on the west side. He's not interested in your house anymore. Fine by me. Move on, onward and upward. So I go about my days, enjoying my house, loving life, summertime in Ohio, playing golf. And come mid-August, all of a sudden I get another phone call. Hey, Paul, turns out Shaq never said he was moving on from your house. He actually is interested in your house. He wants your house. But before he does it, he wants to send a crew out there to make sure it can fit his size. I'd built my house with 8-foot-high doors, 10, 11-foot-high ceilings, 12 feet in some area, big enough for a guy like Shaq. So a guy from California flies all the way. I guess it was his property manager. Comes to the house, goes through everything, goes, yep, everything's great here. Big house, big high ceilings. This will fit him perfectly. Paul, someone will be in touch with you to negotiate a deal. Now, keep in mind, I had not heard anything about money. Nothing at all about money. So I'm a business person. So to me, it's about what kind of return are you going to give me? I just wasn't in this for a cool story. I wasn't in this to become friends with Shaq because I thought to myself, I'm probably never going to meet this guy. More on that later. I just wanted to see how much money I could make at the age of 27, renting my house to this Shaq guy. Now, it was late 2000, summer of 2009, so I was 28 at this time. Finally, the person in Cleveland who's his business associate gives me a call and says, Paul, I remember his name was Anthony. He calls me and goes, I'm coming to your house this date. Do you mind meeting with me? So sure enough, he drives over to my house. He comes and meets with me. And we start walking. He's like, Paul, this house is great. This will fit him perfectly. But before we get into that, there's some real estate deals I want you to look at with Christian Leitner. I was like, no, thanks. I'm not interested in that. He started pitching me other deals. And I said, listen, and finally I stopped. I said, Anthony, we're here to talk about Shaq. Before we talk about anything else, what are you guys going to pay me for him to live here? He said, well, Paul, he is Shaq. And yes, he makes a lot of money, but he's not here to throw money around. Now, the next part of the story I want you to keep in mind is 100% true. I'm not doing this to be a hard ass, 100% true. And this is the way I want you to be in real estate, because it's really important that you understand what you're willing to pay for something or what you're willing to take for something in order to do the deal. He looks at me and says, Paul, Shaq's looking to pay $11,000 a month. And I said, well, that's really simple. We don't have a deal. Sorry for wasting your time. I'm young. I love my life. I'm not going to go move to make $2,000 or $3,000 a month and inconvenience myself. Oh, and also I had to pay rent elsewhere as well. So at this point, it was late August. And I said to them, listen, here's what I'm willing to do. I'm willing to do a flat fee up front, paid in full. And he has to move out within a week of the Cavs either winning a finals championship or getting kicked out of the playoffs. The finals was going to be around the June 20th to June 25th. So I figured I'd be in by no later than July 1st. And he'd probably occupy somewhere around October 1st. So I was looking at roughly 9 months at most of him living there. So I thought to myself, okay, what's a reasonable amount of money for 9 months? And I remember thinking to myself, let me hit him up a little bit high. I asked for $225 paid for up front. Now, they went to Shaq. They came in offer with me, and they said to me, Paul, $175. We will pay you half up front now and half when he moves in. And I said, okay, but if he decides not to move in for whatever reason, something happens along the way, I keep that first half. They said, fine by us. There was the deal. It was $175. I paid out about $12,000 or $15,000 in commissions to those two people. So I got $160. So all in all, I ended up netting about $85,000. Now, is that something to write home about? No, but it was easy for me to do it. And I went and spent it all on an Audi R8. I wanted an Audi R8. This money fell in my lap, and I decided to spend it all. Now, here were some of the plus sides of the deal. Shaq had a management company writing bills for him. They were awesome. They were thorough. They were great. I would submit invoices. They would ask me questions about the invoices because what we did was we didn't change. At one point, we were trying to get them to change the utilities in their name, and it was becoming a hassle. I finally said, guys, I'll submit the invoices to you. You just pay me back. They loved it. They were great, easy to work with. Shaq's assistant was the person I dealt with, a guy named Tony, wonderful guy. He was in several movies, great guy. I loved dealing with them. There were a few times I got some odd requests from them, like, hey, Paul, it would be like 11 o'clock at night. Hey, Paul, can you order this, this fight, this UFC fight? I was like, fine, whatever. But he was a great guy. Even to this day, I'll get a random text or phone call from him when he needs something. He was a wonderful guy to deal with. But the most common question I get is, Paul, did you ever meet Shaq? And this is the funny part. I never met Shaq until 2015. And here's why. I have dealt with athletes in the past, and they want to be left alone. I didn't want to be that guy, this fanboy who's sitting there going like, hey, Shaq, let's go. I never reached out to him. I always dealt with Tony, the manager. He was awesome, the assistant. So after we got bounced from the playoffs prematurely, I reached out to Tony and said, hey, you were great. Let me take you to dinner sometime. So I took him to dinner. At dinner one day, he looked at dinner that day. He looked at me and goes, by the way, he always called him Big. He's like, Big and I always want to know why you never wanted to hang out. And I was like, was that a possibility? He said, well, yeah, you don't party. We don't party. You don't drink. We don't drink. We thought you'd end up asking. I'm like, listen, I just want to give him a space. And he was so generous. He said, listen, you're ever in Orlando, let us know. You can stay at our house. To this day, if I ever need anything NBA related, if I reach out to him, he's very wonderful to help. Great, great group. But the biggest thing I learned from this was, one, if I were to do that deal over and over again, since then, a lot of athletes have asked to rent. And I've always said no. I regretted doing it. I went and moved to a small condo, boxes everywhere. I was miserable for 8 months. Had nothing to do with Shaq. It all had to do with me. It was fun to have a story. It's still a great story. Hell, we're making a video now about it. And maybe Shaq sees the video someday. He was a wonderful guy about it. The first time I ever even got to speak to Shaq, LeBron had come back to Cleveland in 2014. When he came back that summer, Shaq had to come to Akron or Cleveland to do some sort of event. So his assistant, Tony, called me again and said, hey, P, he always called me P, do you still have that house in Richfield? I said, I sure do. And by the way, in Shaq's book, I think it's called Uncut, he mentions the Richfield area. He said, Shaq wants to come and rent it again for just 4 days. I said, great. So all of a sudden he goes, yeah, hang on a second. And all of a sudden I hear on the phone, hey, Paul, what's up, man? And it was Shaq. I was like, Shaq, what's up, man? So it was really exciting for me. I finally got to speak to him. He said something and he goes, hey, I always knew I'd like you. I don't care what LeBron says about you. And I said, and that time I'd done a come home LeBron campaign to get LeBron to come back to Cleveland. So I said, hey, LeBron came back to Cleveland for me, so it doesn't really matter. He was willing to pay me $3,000 to stay at my house for 4 days. I said, listen, just stay for free. I'll move out. But it ended up being a few days later, his plans changed, and then the time he needed it, he couldn't do it. But he was always very generous. I even said to him, you can stay for free. He's like, listen, when I come there, I'm going to leave $3,000 for you. Go donate to somebody. Go do something with it, but I'm not staying for free. So I thought that was very admirable of him. And then fast forward another few years, he came into town for the Cavs, I think the Cavs Atlanta Hawks series. And I was driving home. Every Monday night at that point, I had a 3-on-3 basketball at my house. So I was driving home with a buddy of mine to go to the 3-on-3 basketball, and the phone rings and it says, Tony, Shaq's assistant. So I pick it up. I go, Tony, what's up? He's like, Paul, you still live there? I said, I sure do. He goes, well, Shaq's on his way there. He wants to come see the house again because he really loved the house. I said, sounds great. I'll be there. And by the way, make sure it's okay. There are friends of mine that are going to be playing basketball there. I want to surprise them. Didn't tell any of my buddies. Actually, I told my stepson, who at the time was not my stepson. He was coming to play. I said, Shaq is coming. Show up now. Make sure you're there. He said, Shaq's coming. He was so excited. So I got to the house. My friends were all there playing. I said, guys, I'm going to be a little bit. I'll be there shortly. I waited up the front door. Finally, he shows up. I said, hey, it's nice to meet you finally. We shook hands. He's like, man, I love this house. I go, thanks. And he said to me, this is my favorite house I ever rented all the time I was in the NBA. I was like, that's very kind of you to say. So I said to him, hey, my buddies are here. So above my basketball court, I had a study, but it had double doors that opened onto the basketball court. So I opened the doors and I said, hey guys, somebody here wanted to watch us play. And in comes Shaq, and my buddies lost it. They were so excited. They had no idea he was coming. He lifted people over his head. He lifted my stepson over his head. It was a wonderful event. He made everybody's day like so awesome. They all loved it. One of my buddies, Kyle, kept telling everybody his best friend Shaq and all these things, but it was a wonderful experience. I'm really glad I did it. Would I do it again? Not with my current life situation at all, unless it was an absurd amount of money. When I say absurd, like, if back then, I think I ended up getting, so for 9 months, I got 175. So what is that? 19,000 a month. I think I'd have to get the equivalent of 40,000 or 50,000 a month to do it, because it really was an inconvenience in my life. And at a 27-year-old, when you have all the flexibility in the world, it was still inconvenient for me. I was working out of my house. I had to change my office to a temporary office. It was just a fiasco, but it was awesome. Now, it's a miniature Airbnb, but I don't want to be that way. That's something that's very big for me now. For me, when I'm buying these rental homes, I want it to be purely for people to go there and enjoy and be a very minor inconvenience in my life. Shaq did a wonderful job. He didn't damage anything. He paid for things. Like, at one point, he wanted to put drapes, brand new drapes in my master bedroom. And he said to me, hey, I'll pay for all of it. I go, no, I was going to do drapes anyway. Let's pay for half. He said, sounds good. I mean, he was very generous like that. He left a bunch of signed stuff for me. I didn't even ask for that. So it was really nice to have that whole experience with them. So a few years, maybe like 2 years later, it's been so long, I was cleaning my laundry room. Something was going on in my laundry room. I was cleaning the floor. I think one of the dogs peed there. I pulled one of the laundry machines back, and I looked behind there, and there was some boxers there, but they were kind of big. I took a broom, pulled it out, and it was Shaq's boxers right there. You see these boxers right here. They are freaking huge. Now, since then, somebody's stolen the boxers from me. I had workers at the house, and they are now gone, which kind of sucks because I don't live in that house anymore. But it's a great story. After I rented to him, I would be around people, and they'd randomly start talking about Shaq renting a house. They didn't even know who I was. Like, I was once at an Indians game. People behind me were like, hey, did you see that house Shaq rented? And I'm like, with my future stepson-to-be, and he like looks at me, and I'm just like, yeah, I'll keep quiet. And they would say things. I was at a gas station in Akron, and they start saying, like, hey, did you hear about the house? To me, did you hear about the house Shaq rented? I'm like, yeah, I heard about it. They're like, yeah, it's probably awesome. I remember I was listening to the radio one day, Q104 in Cleveland, and I'm listening to them, and they started talking about the house, and they started saying some things about how much I got in rent. And I think they said something like $30,000 a month. So I actually called in, and I said, hi, this is Paul. I rented my house to Shaq. He's like, no way, really? I go, yeah. He's like, can I put you on air? I go, no, you cannot. However, I'm just calling to clarify, I did not get 30. I wish I did, but I did not get 30,000. He's like, oh, I'll clarify it, but thanks for calling in. So just those like small things. And even though it was in the news because the person across the street from me knew a newscaster and they brought it on. In fact, so Tony said to me, why'd you do that? I said, Tony, I had nothing to do with that. It was a neighbor. He goes, okay, cool. Because we really want our privacy. I go, I understand. I've told nobody about this except for immediate friends and family. And that it was on the news, but I assured him I had nothing to do with it. But they were cool about everything. I sent people over when they needed it. Any maintenance needed done, immediately done. And they were awesome about it. So again, when it comes to renting houses to anybody, but especially since then, I've seen many horror stories of celebrities renting houses and demolishing them and filing lawsuits. I never had that with Shaq. If anything, I would have been quite the opposite. He was so generous with everything. In fact, years later, when I went to sell my house, Mike Miller of Miami Heat, who came to Cleveland, was trying to buy the house, and he was concocting all these ideas with him, making a TV show with Vanilla Ice about it. And I was like, listen, do you want to buy the house or not? This is the price. And he wanted some major discount. I said, I'm not willing to do that, but I appreciate it. And it was one of those things that getting out of my system didn't make me be this whore to get it done. But it was fun to do it with Shaq, and it's nice to have that kind of affiliation with it. But I'm probably never going to meet the guy ever again, and I'm fine with that because it was a good experience, good story. But it really does teach you a lot about handling high-end rentals. At that point, I just had regular rentals. I didn't have any high-end rentals. And I think I got spoiled because he was a phenomenal renter. I've seen tons of stories. I've heard of people in Cleveland renting to other athletes and just having awful, awful stories of houses being destroyed, having to sue, back rent. With Shaq, it was super simple, super easy, money wired, done. Now, guys, I now have 1,000 doors. None of them are like that one house, but actually, several are like that one house that are more valuable. But if you want to learn about real estate, how to make money doing it, like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below on anything having to do with this video. If you have a comment, your own experience with Shaq, he's great with fans. So if you want to learn about rental incomes, watch this next video. Thank you for your time.